Welcome, everyone. Before we dive in, tell me, where are you watching from, and what time is it there? Whether day or night, your moment sets the perfect stage for this adventure. It began with a whisper, an anomaly in the flow of time itself. Mr. Albert Dorr, a private investigator with a keen eye for detail, and Inspector James Ellison were summoned to a peculiar case. A wealthy horologist named Charles Wren had vanished from his workshop in the heart of London, leaving behind a clock that seemed to tick backward. The clock's mechanism was unlike any other, its gears wound with unnatural precision. At the heart of the device was a secret, a missing minute, one that could change the course of events. When we arrived at Wren's workshop, the air was thick with the scent of oil and burnt brass. The large grandfather clock stood silent in the corner, its hands frozen at 11:59. Oddly, the pendulum swung backward, as if trying to rewind the very seconds it had lost. Inspector Ellison examined the scattered papers on the desk, while I inspected the clock's inner workings. Among the scattered notes was a cryptic message: "The minute lost is the minute gained. Time is but a circle." Wren's disappearance was no ordinary case. It was a puzzle wrapped in layers of mechanical mysteries and temporal riddles. Our inquiries soon led us to the Timekeepers' Society, a secretive group of master clockmakers who had sworn to protect the sanctity of time. Their members were scattered across London, meeting only in whispers and shadows. Margot Hensley, a brilliant but guarded horologist, invited us to her workshop. She revealed the Society's history. A fellowship dedicated to crafting the most precise clocks, and guarding secrets that could bend time itself. The Society was once united, she explained, but ambition and fear split us apart. Some believe time should be absolute, others think it can be refined. Margot's eyes darkened as she spoke of a man known only as the Regulator, a rogue member whose experiments threaten to tear the fabric of reality. We must stop him before he changes a moment that must remain unchanged, she warned. The Regulator was an enigma, an obsessive horologist who vanished into the shadows after pushing the boundaries of temporal mechanics too far. His goal, to alter a single moment in history that haunted him. Evidence suggested he was behind recent disappearances and sabotage within the Society. His device, a colossal clock that counted backward, was rumored to be hidden beneath London. Ellison and I knew time was against us. If the Regulator succeeded, history itself might unravel. Our next step was to find the location of this machine and prevent the final stroke that could erase or rewrite the past. Of the 7 names in Tobias Wren's hidden journal, 4 were crossed through in heavy, trembling strokes. Wren's own name, number 4, had a single line through it. The others bore no such marks. Names I had not heard before, save one, Dr. Callum Vexley, a pioneer in precision metallurgy and a former lecturer at King's College. He was listed as number 2. Where's he now? I asked. Ellison thumbed through the Yard's archives. Resigned his post 5 years ago. No criminal record. But he's been rather elusive since. We turned our attention to another name, Margot Hensley, number 6. A brief search revealed her to be a recluse living in Blackheath, known for her mechanical installations and eccentric clocks. Her surname jogged a memory. She had once exhibited at the Royal Academy, though her entry had been withdrawn under vague circumstances. It was clear now. Wren's death was not an isolated tragedy, it was the first chime in a sequence. If these 7 formed a clockwork circle, someone was dismantling them piece by piece. We began with Margot Hensley. Her residence stood at the edge of a wooded clearing, half consumed by ivy. Gears of iron and brass adorned her gates like runes of some forgotten language. As we approached, an automaton, resembling a brass owl, whirred to life above the lintel and released a high-pitched screech. A door opened. A woman stepped out. She was in her 60s, hair bound in copper pins, eyes sharp as tacks. "You're here about to buy us," she said, without greeting. Allison's brow furrowed. "You expected us?" "No. I expected someone. But you'll do." We stepped inside. Her home was a shrine to precision. Mechanical spiders crawled the ceiling, their tiny gears clicking. A grandfather clock in the hall ran counterclockwise. "I know why you're here," she said, pouring tea. "You found the book." "The list." "Why are the names numbered?" I asked. She hesitated. "Because we were parts of a design. Each of us carried a role in the creation. A kind of horological map." "What were you building?" She looked directly at me. "A perfect machine." We listened as she explained. Years ago, Wren, Vexley, and 5 others, herself included, had founded a clandestine circle to explore the theoretical boundaries of time through mechanics. They were inspired not by fantasy, but by the pursuit of absolute precision. Their goal had been to build a device that could chart, and perhaps even correct, the anomalies of history. Correct them how? Allison asked. "Time fractures," she said. "Moments when cause and effect misalign." We hypothesized a machine that could identify these inconsistencies and reweave them. At least, that was the theory. But something went wrong. She nodded grimly. "We disbanded 5 years ago. Wren insisted we had gone too far. Others did not agree. And now someone's eliminating the circle. Or reactivating it." She rose and brought forth a locked iron case. Within was a second punched strip, nearly identical to the one we had found on Wren. Only this one bore different patterns. "I was meant to receive this yesterday. It arrived this morning. Late." She handed it to Allison. "Take it. And be careful. You've no idea what you're dealing with." Back at the yard, we examined the strip under magnification. It bore musical notes as well as numerical holes, like a hybrid cipher. We overlaid both strips. "The holes aligned in a rhythmic pattern, not a message," I said slowly. "A map." Allison looked at me. "You're certain?" "Not yet. But I believe if we find one more strip, we'll confirm it." There were 3 names left uncrossed. One of them was Dr. Vexley. We tracked him to a ruined estate outside Surrey. The manor was overgrown, windows shattered, yet signs of habitation were recent. Smoke from the chimney, boot prints in the garden soiled inside. The air was hot and metallic. Tables overflowed with gears, glass tubes, and clock faces. A single metronome ticked in the far corner, its motion hypnotic Dr. Vexley. I called. A man emerged, tall, gaunt, wearing spectacles and stained gloves. I warned him, he said. Tobias wouldn't listen. You know he's dead. Yes. He blinked slowly. I know. Ellison stepped forward. How? Vexley gave a thin smile. Because the sequence has begun. The machine is almost ready. I stiffened. You're rebuilding it? He didn't answer directly. You should go. You're not part of this. Not anymore. But we are, I replied. Especially if others are dying. Vexley's voice turned bitter. They betrayed the project. They grew afraid. But you'll see, history will prove me right. Before we could stop him, he hurled a lever down on the wall. A terrible shriek split the air. A pulse of mechanical sound. Lights burst. Metal whined. We stumbled back. Ellison drew his revolver, but Vexley was gone, vanished, and the metronome had stopped ticking. Later that evening, we sat in Ellison's office, the city outside shrouded in fog. The brass strips from Wren and Hensley lay across the desk. We now had a third, pried from Vexley's device before the room collapsed in a gear-driven implosion. The patterns were clearer now, a progression not just of place, but time. Each strip encoded a specific date and location. Yet none were in the future. They're guiding us, I said. But not forward. Backwards. Yes. To the original moment the machine was conceived. They're trying to reach ground zero. Ellison was silent. Then, you think Vexley intends to rewrite something? I nodded. Something in the past. Something only the machine can reach. We followed the strips to a deserted warehouse in Limehouse, once a meeting ground for the society. We arrived on a moonless night, the air thick with mist. Inside was a vault sealed with 7 brass tumblers, 1 for each member. I retrieved the strips and inserted them one by one. The vault hissed open, within, a machine. No larger than a wardrobe, yet intricate beyond imagining. Spinning gyroscopes, pendulums suspended from unseen points, a sphere of glass floating in the center. It hummed. Alive, Ellison whispered. What is it? A lens, I said. A way of seeing history. And perhaps changing it. We didn't touch it. We left it sealed. But as we turned to leave, a voice echoed from behind the gears. You're too late. Blackheath was bathed in a thin drizzle when we arrived at Margot Hensley's manor. The house itself stood in contrast to the grim grey sky, bright ochre stone covered in crawling ivy, its windows like blind eyes peering into time itself. A garden of rusted sculptures and spinning clockwork devices bordered the walkway. We approached the front gate cautiously. Ellison rang the bell. We heard the chime echo inside, melodious and haunting. Moments later, the door opened. A young woman in servant's garb regarded us with suspicion. Miss Hensley doesn't receive visitors without appointment. I stepped forward. Tell her Mr. Albert Dorr and Inspector James Ellison wish to speak. It is a matter of grave importance. The maid hesitated, then vanished inside. Minutes passed. Finally, Margot Hensley herself emerged. She was slight, white-haired though not elderly, dressed in a silk blouse and trousers stained with oil and brass shavings. Her eyes were sharp. "I know why you're here," she said. "Come in." We followed her through narrow halls lined with kinetic art and ticking machines. The sitting room was dominated by a great orrery, slowly turning with a series of rhythmic ticks. "Wren is dead," she said flatly, pouring herself a cup of tea. "Number 4. That makes me number 6. "You're part of the Timekeepers Society," Ellison stated. I was. Until it fractured. She explained that the society had once been a collective of horologists dedicated to creating the most accurate timekeeping mechanisms known to man. But ambition poisoned unity. A man known only as the regulator proposed using their devices to refine in time, to adjust causality, eliminate errors of fate. "We thought him mad," she said. But others listened. The society splintered. Some went underground. "Do you believe he's killing off the members?" She nodded. "To eliminate those who knew the truth, and to hide his greatest experiment." She led us to her workshop, a dome of glass and steel. In its center was a massive clock, its pendulum swinging backward. "It doesn't count forward," she said. "It counts regressively." "A countdown?" "No. A reversal. If completed, it could," she paused, "unwind a specific moment." "Time travel?" I asked. "Not travel," she corrected. "Correction. He's building a mechanism to rewrite a single event in history. One he regrets." Ellison leaned in. "Which event?" She whispered, "I don't know. But if he succeeds, we won't either. The moment will vanish." Outside, the clock struck noon. And somewhere in London, another member of the society screamed. News of the scream reached us via telegraph as we returned to London. The message was brief: explosion, Temple Street workshop, unidentifiable remains. Suspected foul play. We arrived at the site within the hour. Temple Street was cordoned off. A thick plume of smoke rose from what had once been a modest storefront. The windows were shattered, gears and brass plates scattered across the pavement. A constable greeted us. "Found him, or what's left of him, in the back room. Name's Dr. Tobias Krill. Clockmaker. Known eccentric. Another member?" I asked. "Number 3, Ellison replied grimly. The workshop's interior was a chaos of twisted metal, scorched wood, and pulverized machinery. In the center lay the remains of a large, spherical mechanism, now cracked and burnt. Triggered from inside, Ellison muttered. Deliberate sabotage. I wandered through the debris and noticed a surviving blueprint, half-scorched but legible, Chronocapsule Variant 6. Another time device, I said, handing it to Ellison. No. Not just time, he murmured. It's designed to localize a temporal event. To change a moment without affecting others. Margot's theory seemed increasingly plausible. A scraping sound startled us. We turned, pistols ready. From behind a shattered cabinet crawled a man, wounded, face blackened by soot. I escaped, he gasped. He came, the regulator. Ellison knelt beside him. Who are you? Number 7. Ernest Pike. He made Krill finish it, but it didn't work. Where is he now? Pike coughed, blood staining his lips. The final piece, he said, he needs the core. It's in the vault. What vault? I asked. Pike's eyes fluttered. The first chamber. Society's heart, beneath the old observatory, he died. Ellison rose slowly. Then that's where we go. The stars had begun to emerge in the night sky. But below the earth, beneath London's foundation, secrets older than the city itself ticked away, waiting. The Royal Observatory had long been a place of study and celestial alignment. But beneath its recorded history lay a hidden substructure, known only to those initiated into the Timekeeper's Society. With Margot's guidance, we uncovered a stone hatch behind a disused quadrant, leading to a spiral stairwell swallowed by darkness. We descended with lanterns and revolvers. The air grew colder. Dust hung thick. The stairs ended at a vault door wrought of bronze and etched with arcane timekeeper symbols. Margot traced the symbols, pressed 3 points, and the gears groaned. The door slid open. Inside was a vast chamber of echoing silence. The floor was tiled with concentric circles. At the center stood a dais holding a glass sphere cradled by mechanical arms, a glowing blue light pulsed within. The core, she whispered. Ellison approached. We're not alone. A figure stepped from the shadows. He wore a long coat stitched with silver wire, a black mask covering his face. His voice echoed metallically. You've come far, Ellison. Door. And Margot. Still clinging to regret. The regulator, I said. He nodded. I do not seek dominion. Only one moment. One mistake to undo. Then I vanish. Ellison drew his pistol. You've murdered half your friends to get here. They died in service of a greater equation. He stepped to the sphere, inserted a copper key, and the mechanism stirred. The chamber pulsed. Margot lunged for the console. The regulator fired. She fell. I ran to her. Blood pooled beneath her. Stop him, she gasped. Ellison and I charged. We fired. The regulator staggered, hit in the shoulder. He collapsed beside the sphere, his fingers twitching. The light dimmed. The hum ceased. It was over. We left the vault carrying Margot's body and the core. The chamber sealed itself behind us, its secrets safe, for now. But deep within, the gears still turned. The city felt colder as we carried Margot through the fog-laden streets of London. The core pulsed faintly in its case, as if it still held a heartbeat. At St. Bartholomew's Hospital, I left Margot in the hands of the surgeons. Ellison and I then returned to Baker Street, burdened by the heavy weight of recent events. Days passed, but the air remained thick with unease. The regulator's ambition to alter time itself was unlike any threat we had faced. His device, the core, was a key to a door that should never be opened. Yet one question gnawed at me: what moment was so vital that a man would kill his own comrades to rewrite it? Ellison and I pored over every fragment of knowledge we had gathered from the society, the blueprints, and Margot's words. We tracked down surviving members and witnesses, trying to piece together the lost past. Our search led us to an obscure historian, Professor Larkin, who specialized in temporal philosophy and the history of horology. In his cluttered study, surrounded by dusty tomes and strange timepieces, he listened with quiet gravity. "There is a legend," Larkin said softly, "of a moment that shook the foundations of London, one lost to official history, but remembered in whispers by those who dare." He pulled out an ancient journal. In 1865, an explosion in the city nearly destroyed the old observatory itself. It was hushed up, but it is said a young woman vanished in the chaos, an assistant to the astronomer, but more than that, a key figure in the society. I looked to Ellison, who nodded. Could this be the moment he wants to change? I asked. Larkin nodded slowly. If the regulator rewrites that day, the consequences could ripple outward, changing everything. As the candle flickered, a chill breeze swept through the room, as if time itself whispered warnings. We were racing not just against a man, but against time itself. After leaving Professor Larkin's study, Ellison and I felt the weight of history press upon us more heavily than ever. The vanished assistant from 1865. The lost moment could be the regulator's target. But why was this woman so important? We retraced our steps to the old observatory, now mostly a ruin swallowed by ivy and neglect. The place was eerily silent, save for the soft ticking of an ancient clock embedded in the stone wall. Inside, beneath piles of dust and shattered glass, I uncovered a rusted locket, its clasp barely holding. Inside was a faded portrait of a young woman with resolute eyes. Elizabeth Harrow, the astronomer's assistant, whose disappearance had been quietly erased from public record. Ellison found a hidden compartment beneath the dais, revealing a collection of Elizabeth's journals. They spoke of discoveries that could have changed the way time was understood, of a celestial alignment that affected the flow of causality itself. Suddenly, footsteps echoed. We weren't alone. From the shadows emerged a figure, dressed in a cloak, face obscured by a wide-brimmed hat. "I've been expecting you," the stranger said, voice low and steady. Ellison raised his pistol. "Wait," I said. "Who are you?" The figure lowered their hat, revealing a striking face, none other than Ernest Pike, the survivor from Temple Street. "I couldn't tell you before," he said. "But I'm trying to stop him too. The regulator's plans will unravel more than just a moment. They'll tear the very fabric of our reality." He pulled from his coat a delicate gear, inscribed with strange symbols. "This belongs to Elizabeth. She entrusted it to me before she vanished. Our paths converged in that dark chamber, united by a desperate hope to prevent a catastrophe that could erase us all. With Ernest Pike now an uneasy ally, we descended beneath the old observatory through a narrow spiral staircase concealed behind a crumbling wall. The air grew colder, heavier, as if time itself was thickening around us. The passage opened into a vast subterranean chamber. The walls were adorned with intricate carvings of stars, planets, and celestial gears, an ancient homage to the mysteries of time. At the center stood a colossal vault, its door covered in clockwork mechanisms that clicked and whirred, responding to invisible hands of fate. "This is the heart of the society," Pike whispered. "The chamber where Elizabeth hid the core of time, the key to the regulator's device." Ellison inspected the vault's locking mechanism, a puzzle of interlocking gears and numerals. "Only one with true knowledge of time's flow can unlock this," he mused. "An incorrect turn and this entire place could collapse." I noticed faint engravings on the floor, an ancient astrological map, with positions of stars from the night Elizabeth disappeared. Pike stepped forward, matching the symbols with the vault's tumblers, and slowly the door began to turn. Inside, we found shelves lined with hourglasses, ancient manuscripts, and the core, a glowing orb pulsing with a strange inner light. Suddenly, a sound echoed behind us, footsteps racing down the stairs. "The regulator," Pike said grimly. We barely had time to grab the core before a masked figure burst into the chamber, eyes blazing with fanaticism. "The time for change is now," he hissed, advancing. The final confrontation to save time itself had begun. The regulator's silhouette loomed large as he lunged toward us, his movements sharp and deliberate. In one hand, he wielded a strange device, a time manipulator that hummed with potent energy. Ellison stepped forward, pistol drawn. "You won't rewrite history today." The regulator laughed, a cold, hollow sound. "History is flawed. It must be corrected." I clutched the core tightly, feeling its steady pulse against my palm. The chamber seemed to warp around us as the regulator activated his device. Time itself rippled, seconds stretching and compressing unnaturally. Ernest Pike lunged to intercept, grappling with the regulator. Sparks flew as metal clashed. Amid the chaos, I noticed a lever on the vault's mechanism. If pulled, it could disrupt the core's power. "Ellison, the lever!" I shouted. With a steady aim, Ellison fired a warning shot near the lever, startling the regulator. Seizing the moment, I yanked the lever down. The glowing core flared, emitting a bright light that filled the chamber. The regulator screamed as time ripples collapsed around him, and the device in his hand shattered. When the light faded, the regulator lay unconscious, the room calm once more. Breathing heavily, we secured the core and bound the regulator. The battle was over, but the war for time's sanctity had only just begun. With the regulator subdued, we bound him securely and prepared to bring him to justice. Yet even in defeat, his eyes burned with unsettling certainty, as if convinced that his cause was righteous. Margot Hensley, recovered enough to join us, examined the core once more. "This orb is more than a key. It's a repository of time's secrets," she said, her voice trembling with reverence. "If used wrongly, it could unravel the fabric of existence." Ellison nodded grimly. "We must ensure it never falls into the wrong hands again." Our first task was to return the core to the Society's vault, hidden deep beneath London, where it would be guarded by the most loyal members. Yet questions lingered. Why had the regulator been so desperate to change that single moment? Who was Elizabeth Harrow, truly? And what ripples would this event leave across history? We resolved to study Elizabeth's journals, to understand the past so we could protect the future. As dawn broke over London, the city stirred, unaware of how close it had come to losing the very essence of time. For Mr. Albert Dorr and Inspector James Ellison, the case was closed, for now. It began with a whisper, an anomaly in the flow of time itself. Mr. Albert Dorr, a private investigator with a keen eye for detail, and Inspector James Ellison were summoned to a peculiar case. A wealthy horologist named Charles Wren had vanished from his workshop in the heart of London, leaving behind a clock that seemed to tick backward. The clock's mechanism was unlike any other, its gears wound with unnatural precision. At the heart of the device was a secret, a missing minute, one that could change the course of events. Dorr and Ellison's inquiries led them to the Timekeepers' Society, a secretive group of master clockmakers obsessed with controlling time. The society was fractured, its members scattered and wary. Among them was Margot Hensley, an expert in horological devices, who revealed a dangerous ambition within the society, a plan to manipulate time to correct past mistakes. A man known only as the Regulator was behind the disappearances and sabotage. His obsession with altering a single moment in history had driven him to extremes. He believed that by resetting that moment, he could perfect the present, but his plan was flawed and deadly. The Regulator's device was a massive clock, counting backward with a pendulum that defied time. It was housed beneath the old observatory in London, guarded by puzzles and traps. Dorr, Ellison, and Margot raced against time to stop the countdown before history was irreparably altered. Blackheath was drenched in drizzle as the investigators arrived at Margot's manor, where secrets of the society were whispered and shadows lingered. They learned that members of the society were being eliminated one by one, each death a warning. The clock that counted backward was more than a device, it was a weapon against fate. An explosion at a clockmaker's workshop on Temple Street revealed the deadly lengths the Regulator would go to. Among the wreckage, a survivor whispered of the Regulator's plan to use the core hidden beneath the old observatory. Descending into the vault beneath the observatory, the team uncovered ancient mechanisms and celestial maps, all linked to Elizabeth Harrow, the missing assistant whose disappearance was the key to the regulator's obsession. With Professor Larkin's help, the team learned of the 1865 explosion and the erased history of Elizabeth Harrow. The regulator sought to change that day, risking the fabric of reality itself. Ernest Pike, a survivor from Temple Street, joined the investigation. Together they discovered Elizabeth's journals and the symbols that unlocked the vault secrets, only to face the regulator's fanatic wrath. Inside the vault, amidst hourglasses and manuscripts, the glowing core pulsed with power. The regulator arrived, ready for a final confrontation. In a battle that warped time itself, Dorr, Ellison, and Pike fought to prevent the regulator from rewriting history. With a desperate move, they disabled the device and subdued the fanatic. With the regulator captured and the core secured, the team vowed to protect the secrets of time. The vanished moment of Elizabeth Harrow remained a mystery, but one they were determined to understand. As dawn broke over London, the city remained unaware of how close it had come to losing time itself.